Hello, Sally Levine from Fitback Systems. Today I wanted to share an essential part of my practice with you as far as self-care. This is something that I'm trained to do and have been doing in my practice for the last few years, and it makes a huge difference to your body symptoms, to your immune system. But there are a few rules and guidelines, so we're going to go through those as we move through this video. So I'm talking about lymphatic drainage. So the lymphatic system is directly connected to your immune system. Lymphocytes, the white blood cells that travel around your body and fight off infection, they're the ones that fight off the viruses when they come into our bodies. So if you've ever had a cold, or maybe your mom used to do this to you when you were little, that she would, feel at your neck and see if your glands were up. I know my mom always used to say that to me, my glands are up, your glands are up in your neck. That means that there's a bacteria or a virus, some kind of alien particle come into your body, come into your throat, and it's trying to take hold in this area to create a sore throat, the beginning of a cold, whatever. So the glands around that area go into overdrive to try and fight what's going on as far as that infection or bacteria. So the glands get large when they fill with these white blood cells, these lymphocytes, that are trying to fight off whatever's invading. So the big thing that we can do is we can help to drain that area out so that fresh white blood cells, fresh lymphocytes come back into the area, and they can then do a better job. Flush it out, fresh comes back. It's just the same as the blood circulation. We try and pull the blood circulation through the muscles when we do soft tissue work, and that's to aid recovery, stimulate healing, detoxify the area. It's the same thing here with the lymphatics. So we're flushing the system. The one big rule that you need to know is you don't ever do this when you're at the height of your sickness. So what we're doing is we're speeding up a system that already exists inside your body. When your body's stressed from having something it needs to fight off, and it's at that peak of you feeling crappy, you're in bed, maybe you're running a fever. If you're running a fever, don't do this. But if you're beginning to feel a sore throat, or you're on the other side of it and you're trying to push it through so you can recover and get back to normal, or you just want to use it as a daily maintenance to improve your immune system and your immune function, then those are the times to use this lymphatic drainage. You don't use it when you're at your peak of your sickness. Definitely don't use it when you're running a fever. Okay, so we're going to start off with the master port, which is here around the clavicle. And the other rule when doing lymphatic work is that we're going to use really, really gentle touch. You don't sink down into the tissue unless indicated in certain areas, but we're not going to be working with that because that's for the professionals. This is self-care. So we're going to focus here. We're going to talk a little bit about breast tissue and the importance of keeping this area of the body open. But for sore throats, colds, headaches, sinus drainage, we're going to start here. So the clavicle's the master port. Everything comes through the clavicle as far as lymphatics to exit the body. So above the clavicle, it drains down to the clavicle. From the arms, it drains into the clavicle. From the back, it drains around through the armpits and into the clavicle. The lower body drains up through the abdomen and then to the clavicle and then out of the body. Okay, so you start and stop with the clavicle no matter what you're doing as far as lymphatic work. And even if you just need a little boost, that's enough. So what I'm doing is I'm stretching the skin. I'm not moving the tissue. I'm not digging down deep. I'm not using any lotion. I just got out of the shower, out of the hot tub. And so that's a great time to do this when your body's warm and you've got a little bit of still of that tacky sensation on your skin, so you can actually stick to yourself a little bit. If you're super, super dry, you can use just a tiny little bit of lotion. I would say lotion, not oil, because oil you're going to slip, and you want to kind of attach to the skin just a little bit, but it's super light work. You can do this to tiny babies, you can do this to anybody. There's no depth to the work because most of the lymphatics travels actually through the epidermis layer, so that's where you're wanting to move it. And the other difference with the lymphatic system over the cardiovascular system is that we don't have a master pump. So each little lymph node, and you have hundreds of them throughout your body, each little lymph node is its own pump. It has a valve on each end and it moves through, and it behaves like a suck and pull system, like a canal, like a water canal system. One area drains and then the other area fills, and that area drains into the previously drained area. So we're going to start here. We're going to open this up just gently by pulling into center. And you're pumping at a much slower speed than cardiovascular, again, because the lymphatic moves much slower. So about count to 4 or 5 with a hold, and then let go, and then let it refill for a few seconds, and then come back in and move it again. And I'm already starting to feel things moving. Like I just felt kind of like a drainage, like if I swallowed and something came down my throat, coming down here from my head. So what I've done is I've created space here so that whatever was above it can now drain down into it. So if you have sinus pressure, headaches, tension here in your head, this is definitely helpful. So open here, and then we're going to take what we call a butterfly hold, and it's basically an L shape here of your finger, because if I was to go like this, it would look like a butterfly, right? And when you're doing this on yourself, you work across your body. If I was to do this on a client, I'd be working on the same side of the body, but that's difficult for me. So we're going to go here. My fingers are going to fit along my jawline and up towards my ear, and I'm going to make contact with this area of my hand against here on my neck, and I'm just going to gently stretch the skin down towards my clavicle. I'm just laying my hand against my neck, make sure my neck's not in a tight position so I can actually get hold of the skin, and I'm just gently holding it and encouraging it down in that direction towards the clavicle. There I go, swallowing as it moves down. You'll more than likely feel that things will start to run down the back of your throat while you're doing this. Same thing here, just gently pull. The best time to work on your lymphatics is when you're in water, because the lymphatic system is affected by what we call hydrostatic pressure, which means the pressure on the outside of wherever the pressure's greatest, the fluids are going to move away from that. So when the pressure is greater on the outside of the body, things are moving a lot freer here on the inside. But if we're just walking around in air, we don't have as much pressure on the outside of our body, so things fluid-wise don't move as easily on the inside of the body. So when you're in water, the pressure on the outside of the body is greater than it is on the inside, so fluids will move freer on the inside of the body. So if you were in the hot tub or the shower, well, not really the shower because you have to be submerged in water. Shower is helpful because it warms up the skin and it gets things moving and opened up for sure. But if you're actually submerged in water, that's the ideal time. But it works all the time. I use it whenever I go up into the mountains. I live at altitude here in Colorado, and definitely feel it in my ears and sometimes in my throat when I go up to high altitude, which I do regularly. And I often will do this in the car on the way up, just kind of open things up. So here, this is what we call axillary. This is the axillary part. This is the anatomy term for your armpit. So the lymph from the lower part of the body, the abdomen and the legs, will come up here and ultimately exit through the clavicle. So everything from the back will come around here and exit here through the axillary and out the clavicle. So for women especially, it's very important to keep this area open because this is where the breast tissue drains to. And that's definitely part of my work, is helping men and women deal with their breast tissue and to keep that area open. I thoroughly believe that if the lymphatics are open and the congestion in the tissue is decreased, the tissue will stay healthier. And we all want healthy breast tissue. So here I'm going to use my fingertips, and again, I'm working across my body, and I'm just going to gently, very gently scoop up towards my clavicle. I'm barely putting any pressure in there at all. If anything, I'm holding on to my tissue here, and I'm pulling it up, lifting it up towards my clavicle. And that's actually the next piece that you would move to. You would move kind of down your trunk here and just lift the tissue towards your armpit. And same with the breast tissue. Circulate round the breast and up towards the breast tissue. Lift and pull towards the armpit. Lift and pull towards the clavicle. And that way you're going to move the fluids out. So if you find a tender sore spot somewhere, just play with it very, very gently. Just put your fingers over it and move it, stretch it in the direction that it should go. So actually I did that wrong. Below the clavicle always goes to the armpit. So if it was anything here in the breast tissue, I'm going to take it here. I'm going to circle around and I'm going to take it towards the axillary, towards the armpit. And if I find like a little tender spot somewhere, I just put gentle pressure and hold and move it towards the axillary. And then from there, I would pump the axillary to get it to go to the clavicle, and I would gently stretch the clavicle to get it to exit the body. And you can really move a lot of fluid and turgidity around in the body. So whenever we touch our tissue, it should feel soft and pliable. Even if you're big and muscly, you should be able to palpate and get your tissue to lift up and move around. If you can't, then that means that the skin is pressing too tightly against the muscle tissue, and ultimately you're not going to have as much lymphatic flow in those areas. So we want to keep it open, we want to keep it moving. So here, self-care is start at the clavicle, pull gently down the neck. Here, we're gently scooping in towards the clavicle, and we're moving through the breast tissue and down. Here, you don't want to go below your belly button here, but I'm going to hold and hold and move around towards my armpit to open all those things out. And then always come back and finish here at the clavicle. There's a lot more detailed work you can do with this, and I'm happy to help you with that. There's also lots of resources online for lymphatic drainage, but it is a really, really amazing self-care tool. So if I ever get a sore throat starting the night before, I can usually clear it out by just opening up the lymphatics, flushing that area of my system with fresh lymphocytes, clearing out whatever's going on there, making sure I'm drinking lots of water while I'm doing this. And that's a really, really important piece, is you have to make sure you're well hydrated when you start lymphatic work, and make sure you hydrate well at the end of lymphatic work, because we're forcing the fluids through the body at a faster rate than it would do normally, which means you need to put fluids in there. Make sure that you're helping the body to flush, detoxify, and keep your fluid levels where they need to be. Okay, so I hope this is helpful. Definitely shout at fitbacksystems.com if you have any questions. We're always here to help.